Hey everyone, David C. Anderson here coming at you from the Knife Center, and today we're talking about some of the best EDC pocket knives and some larger fixed blades that are going to make a great substitute to a dedicated kitchen knife. Let's check them out. So the reason for this video is you're not always going to have a kitchen knife on you when you might need to do a little bit of food prep, whether that's in your daily life as your EDC pocket knife, if you want it to pull double duty, or maybe you're going camping or heading into the outdoors and you don't want to take a dedicated kitchen knife with you. You still want to do a little bit of food prep. Got some really good options to take a look at here. We're going to start with the folders, and while there's kind of a new school out there that's kind of changing the shape of what a food prep folder is expected to be, we're going to start by looking at some older school stuff first that emulates more of a paring knife style of cooking, or food prep, I should say. And the first is going to be Opinel. Now, the standard Opinels come with wood handles, and they have stainless or carbon blades, very thin, very slicey, and they make a pretty good paring knife substitute. I will say, however, I'm not a huge fan of the wood in this particular case. It's very simple, just unstabilized beech wood, and the pivots on here can get gummed up and the wood itself can swell with moisture. And in a kitchen or a food prep situation, you're probably going to be dealing with a fair bit of moisture. Can it work? Absolutely. There's plenty out there who have used an Opinel for some food prep duties for many, many years with no problems. But just to be on the safe side, I'd say go with one of the synthetic handled options. There aren't as many options. This one right here is probably one of the only ones actually I would recommend for this. It's the number 7 size Scouts model. It comes in about 25 bucks. For that, you've got about a 3.2 inch blade, and it does have a blunted tip on here, which some are going to see as a minus versus the clip point of the standard blade, and I get that. But I really do like the synthetic stability here. You've still got nice slicey blade, very thin, 12C27 stainless, and it's going to work really well cutting up apples, sandwiches, small bits of vegetable food prep, a little bit of meat slicing as well. And with that blunted tip, actually makes it pretty good, peanut butter spreader or something like that too. And it's going to be easier to keep clean, still comfortable. You've got the locking ring there for a little bit of peace of mind as well. They work really nicely for this sort of thing. You also might want to look at some traditional slip joints, which, going back, I don't think this question would have been asked as much, 30 years ago, folder for food prep, pocket knife for food prep, because maybe more than 30 years ago. But in any case, the standard style of pocket knife out there typically would have been very good at food prep. This case trapper right here is a perfect example. Trapper patterns, I think especially, are really good for food prep, whether they're single blade or double blade like this. This particular one is a red and black linen micarta handle. I like the micarta because, again, dealing with moisture, that micarta is going to feel a little grippier when it is wet, which is quite nice. And you pair that, in this case, with 2 blades. Case is stainless steel in this case. You've got the main clip point blade, again, great paring knife substitute. You've got a full height hollow grind on these knives. It's going to be really good peeling an apple, coring it out, all kinds of little stuff like that. Then you got the secondary blade for more edge, and again, another nice peanut butter spreader with that guy as well. A little bit harder to keep clean due to the nature, but you can certainly do it, and that's going to be something that's going to be very important on any of these knives: cleanliness. Make sure you're keeping these knives clean because you don't want them, riddled with bacteria, cutting up some food and putting that in your mouth. Keep that in mind. But really nice, made in the USA, about 63 bucks for this particular model. I don't know if I mentioned that yet or not. Definitely look to the classic slip joints for some good solutions. But I will admit, most of the people asking about a food prep folder today, that's not quite what they're looking for. What they are looking for is typically something like this, the Spyderco SpydieChef. It's a bit expensive. It's about 235 bucks. And for that reason, a lot of people are looking for some other options out there. But we're going to start with kind of the first thing that comes to mind when we're talking about a food prep folder. It's right there in the name, the Spyderco SpydieChef, as I said. I myself have carried a SpydieChef for quite a bit. I still have it and love it. And I can tell you it does a good job at both the EDC pocket knife usage as well as food prep in a pinch. The blade here is about 3.3 inches long. You've got a full flat grind, kind of a signature Spyderco element on many of their models, not all of course. And you've got LC200N steel, which is almost completely impervious to rust. I say almost because, you know, on the extremes you might get some discoloration, but probably nothing you're ever gonna have to worry about. Now paired with that blade, you've got a handle design here, which is designed to give your knuckles a little bit of clearance if you're trying to use the blade on a cutting board. As to how this blade behaves, it works really nicely on pull cuts, slices, that sort of thing. It's got a great sweep to the belly that just likes to glide through things. And the knuckle clearance also gives you another option, especially combined with the belly on this blade. It's not going to be as easy to use as a full-size chef knife for this, but you can even do some rocking cuts, mincing herbs, garlic, that sort of thing in a pinch. Going to work really nicely and going to work a bit more easily for that sort of thing than a quote-unquote paring knife substitute in a folder, as opposed to the kind of folding chef design that we see here. But in addition to that great shape and the excellent steel, handle itself is titanium. We've got a frame lock on the back, and they even use a ceramic detent ball in here. They try to keep everything in here just about as stainless as possible, not just the blade itself. Again, helps keep things clean. The back itself is open, easy to flush out, rinse under a tap if you want to rinse out any debris or anything that's in there. Very nice for that sort of thing. Carries easily thanks to the wire pocket clip, which is reversible as well. It's got a nice classy look, not too scary if you're worried about taking this into some more socially unacceptable areas, shall we say. Solid knife. I really can't say enough good things about this. Next up is another premium option. This is not a more affordable alternative. We'll get to a couple of those in a second. The Liong Mah KUF V4, KUF standing for Kitchen Utility Folder. This is a pretty large knife here. It's about a 4¼ inch blade made out of Elmax steel, and the price on this comes in at about $338 right now. For that, like I said, you've got a big honkin' Elmax blade, full flat grind, kind of modified Santoku inspired shape to this particular handle, or to particular blade shape, I should say. Handles, you don't get an open back here, so it might be a little more finicky in terms of keeping the internals clean, but you have a single piece of G10 that forms the front side of the handle and the back spacer, all one piece, and then titanium frame lock on the back with a really classy clip with that ball bearing on the pinch point. Nice hidden lanyard point there as well if you want to extend the grip on this. Really cool, and Liong Mah himself has a background as a chef, actually, or at least as I don't know if he was a trained chef or not, but very strong background in the culinary world, and you can really see this on this particular knife design. I mean, I do a lot of the cooking in my house as well, and this knife feels completely intuitive to me. It handles how I would expect, kind of the main kitchen knife I like to use at my house would, just in a smaller folding factor. You've got that knuckle clearance, you've got a nice shape, it's gonna slice really well, maybe not quite as satisfyingly as the SpydieChef because there's a little bit less belly here, but this guy I think is even more conducive to doing some of those rock chopping cuts on the cutting board. It's also a great EDC. You've essentially, think of it as a modified sheep's foot profile here, pretty strong cutter, you've got enough of a tip to do some good piercing. There's no flipper tab in this case. This is a titanium frame lock, just not a flipper. You do have the single blade hole here. You can use it easily with your thumb. You can even do that middle finger flick really nicely. Just works really well. One thing to keep in mind, you do have ball bearings in this pivot, which can be a little more finicky for keeping clean. Again, something to keep in mind when you're looking at knives like this. But I really love the shape of these. One of these days, I'm probably gonna wind up taking one of these home as well. So maybe these are a little too big for you and a little too expensive. I totally get that. The next one is a more budget-minded alternative. This is the CRKT Overland, and it comes in at $55 right now. The blade itself is shorter. It's just under 3 inches long. I should note, if you want a more premium, smaller one, there is a 3-inch or roughly 3-inch KUF V4 right now as well. But shorter 3-inch blade, you've still got a handle design that gives you a little bit of knuckle clearance. 8CR series stainless in this case, so very easy to maintain. You've got that black stone washed finish on it as well. As far as efficiency, might be a little more suited to food prep if it did have a closer to full flat grind. Right now we're about half height or thereabouts. So it's a little bit stouter if you're using it for some heavier day-to-day stuff, but still gonna get the job done when you need it and you don't have that kitchen knife with you. G10 here for the front scale. Green color pairs nicely with the orange accents. Stainless steel frame lock on the back, and pivot construction. Washers here, no ball bearings, so a little easier to keep clean in that regard. And then on the same token, we've got the open backed construction here. Again, nice and easy to keep it sanitary. They've also got a really nice execution on the deep carry pocket clip here, almost deep carry, which is going to make it just nicer to carry every day. They inset the clip itself into a pocket into the steel, and the screw heads are nice and flush. So you've got a smooth surface on the steel leading into an uninterrupted surface in front of the top end of the pocket clip. Real easy to get in and out when you need it without it snagging. All right, so we've seen some knives that kind of emulate paring knives, and then some knives that channel, we'll say Santoku a little more than chef knives. The meat cleaver is another popular kitchen knife pattern that we've seen a lot of in recent years, kind of trickling into the folding knife realm. And if I was gonna pick one of them to be able to handle some food prep, it would probably be the CIVIVI Mastodon, the full-size model with about the 3.8-inch blade. Comes in about 55 bucks, same price as that CRKT. So if you were looking for more blade length, you can get it without spending that much, or without spending any more in this particular case. The reason I went with this one is full flat grind on the blade for one, which is a 9CR stainless, so very good edge retention for the price right there. It's roughly 440C in its composition. You get that full flat grind with the good steel, and you get washers in the pivot here, no ball bearings. Again, easier to keep clean, almost a full open back as well. Now this is a flipper design, but even though you don't have ball bearings in the pivot, washer-based knives can still be tuned to flip really well, and that's certainly the case here. Plenty of mass behind the blade as well, helps it feel really satisfying when it does flip open. Deep carry pocket clip, right side or left side in this case, which the Overland is a right side only. The clip execution, not quite as nice because it doesn't nestle into the handle scale itself, which is G10 in this case. The red is nice, but it might be a little too much for some of you guys out there. There are some more subtle colors. But it's going to carry nice and easy as well, provided, of course, your pockets are wide enough, because this is a pretty impressive presence when it is in your pocket. But this is going to be really good for kind of breaking down bigger cuts of vegetables. You could, honestly, I kind of want to try this on something really aggressive like butternut squash or something. I feel like there's enough strength here and enough of a good blade profile. You could kind of push through some of those heavier things if you needed to. As far as the rock chopping type of cuts would go with this particular guy, you have to get a little more creative because you don't have quite as much knuckle clearance as some of these other designs. In fact, very little knuckle clearance. But if you move your cutting board to the edge of the counter and you hang off the edge of that counter, if you're in your kitchen, or if you're at camp, if you're at a picnic table, it's even easier. You can be off to one right side of a picnic table. Hang off the edge of that table, you'll have all the clearance you need. You've got plenty of belly here to be able to pull off that type of cuts, and the little hole in the blade actually makes a nice anchor point to pinch with your other hand and really help guide that quite nicely through those herbs, that garlic, mincing onions, whatever you're gonna need to do. And when you're done doing the food prep, of course, very powerful blade shape here as well. Not quite as agile feeling as something like that Overland. You're definitely gonna be able to feel more precise with this guy. But if you're wanting to make big, strong, powerful cuts, you're certainly gonna be able to do that with this pocket cleaver. So speaking of, cooking in a camp setting where you might be working on a picnic table or some other stuff, I got some fixed blades here. And I'm gonna start with a couple knives that are essentially hunting patterns. Because hunting is essentially one of the first stages of food prep. You need typically a thinner blade that's going to slice really well, which those are two of the things you are going to want in a food prep knife as well. There tends to be a good crossover of a certain subset of hunting knives that make a excellent transition towards food prep. And the first one I want to show you is the REVO Knives RJ1 Journey. A really nice profile. It's about 87 bucks right now, and a just under 4-inch blade length to go along with it. But that blade itself is the reason it's here. Steel on this particular guy is 9CR stainless. Again, we just talked about that. You've got a very broad profile to the drop point shape and thin enough blade steel with a almost full flat grind that gives you an excellent slicing capability right here. In addition to that, you've got a little bit of knuckle clearance here. Again, if you're hanging off the end of the table, you can do some of those mincing cuts. It's not going to be quite as fluid feeling as one of these knives with a more continuous belly. It will kind of clunk down on the cutting board a little bit here at the back, but it is going to work very nicely. But this is going to be very nice for cutting up vegetables, slicing up meat, all the basic things you might be doing at camp or even not at camp, because I do think this would make a good EDC fixed blade as well if you can carry a blade that's not super tiny, if you have a little bit more leeway in your length of carry. G10 handles, brown in this case, but there are other colors which you could get. Good amount of handle length, I would say. 2 finger grooves here that give you a little bit of retention from sliding forward. The sheath itself, I will say, is pretty large or pretty broad. It's made out of Kydex, as you can see, but it clicks in nicely. And on the reverse, you've got several attachment methods included. You've got a Tech-Lock style clip, or the Dots style clip, I guess, because it has the push button here at the back. With that, you can carry it in a few different orientations. You've also got another raised Kydex plate that if you take the Tech-Lock off, you could thread this through horizontally or vertically on your belt without even changing anything up. So you've got that option baked in as well. So in addition to hunting knives with, broad drop point blades with full flat grinds, which will tend to work pretty well, we're going to look at a trailing point knife next. Pretty affordable option. This is the Spydreco Bow River. It's a Phil Wilson design. It comes in about $42 right now. The trailing point shape here is really nice because it gives you a good slicing profile. 4.4 inches of blade length here, 8CR series stainless. And because of the small drop here, you've got a little bit of that rock chopping capability too. This is another one you're going to have to hang off the end of the cutting board a little bit. Even if you were to pinch and get your knuckles out of the way, the handle's going to clunk down at about the same time the rear of the blade will. So you're not quite going to get the rock you want that way, but it does have a good shape for doing it. Again, holding the handle off the edge just a little bit. Full flat grind, very slicey, very acute edge. You'll probably want to sharpen through the back end of the heel right here. They've left that slightly unsharpened as a bit of a safety measure, but it's going to be real easy to sharpen through if you want that full edge. I like the handles here too. You've got a black and white layered G10, flares towards the back, both from the top-down view as well as, of course, the profile view. Very conducive to pull cuts, so you can take this out. Obviously going to be a very good hunting and skinning knife. Bit of fish work as well. Then take it back to camp, clean it up, do your food prep with it, and then if you're still needing to cut what you cooked while you're eating it, let's say a steak, great table knife as well. They even supply you with a pretty high quality sheath at this price point too. It's black leather, as you can see. Just the quality is right there. You've got plenty of thickness. Edges are finished really nicely. It's going to have a much more premium feel than its $42 price point would suggest. All right, so the next hunting knife profile we're going to talk about that transitions really well to food prep is the Canadian belt knife, which famously made by Groman. Cold Steel makes a really affordable version that you could check out. But the one I want to look at here is made by LT Wright. It's the large Northern Hunter. There's a small as well, which makes a pretty decent paring knife. But the large here is big enough to make a primary food prep knife when you're out and about camping. Being an LT Wright, these are handmade. You get that handmade attention to detail to go along with it, as well as a lifetime warranty. And the price is actually astonishingly good for such an item, especially with LT Wright these days. Just about 140 bucks. Really, really nicely priced. For that, you got a 4 3/8 inch long blade AEBL stainless, which of course is stainless, but it's got a nice tough characteristic to it as well, in addition to being able to take a very fine edge. All good things in a food preppy style of knife. That elliptical blade shape there, Obviously, you can definitely see the slicing potential there, whether you're hunting and skinning or you're doing some food prep on a cutting board too. You can do those rock chops, again, hanging off the edge of the table. The amount of belly there is really nice for that. Now, you don't have a full flat grind here. You've got kind of a mid-height flat. So it's not as slicey for the food prep stuff as some knives could be, but the trade-off, of course, is you get a little more durability for some harder use stuff. Handles here, polished green micarta in this case, no hot spots, everything's finished by hand, like I said. Nice swell to this one, which is gonna help on those draw cuts, as well as having a great locked-in feel just in general. Sheath here, also really nicely executed, JRE Industries made out of brown leather. Buries nice and deep, so it's not gonna slide out. You've got a dangler loop if you wanna carry it lower on your belt, as well as the fire steel loop for carrying that fire starter with you as well. All right, this next knife is not a hunting profile, or in my mind, any kind of outdoor profile. You've got a fixed blade here from CJRB, the Silax, which essentially looks like an EDC chef knife in a way, or even maybe an EDC sushi knife. The price on this guy comes in at about 70 bucks. Modified Wharncliffe blade, about 5 inches long, just over that. And you've got RPM 9 powder metallurgy steel. So really good performance here. Should get you something like edge retention like D2, but more stainless and easier to maintain as well. The handle itself is a little bit on the narrow side, which is perfect for keeping things nice and neutral for an agile grip. But in terms of what this is gonna be great for, I really do see kind of a mini sushi knife in this blade. It's gonna be great at processing proteins, slicing up veggies, no problem for it as well. You've even got the rock chop capability. You know, you don't have so much knuckle clearance, but if you pinch on the handle here and keep your finger or keep your hand above that plane, very conducive to those rock chopping cuts. Handles are G10, like I said, nice and neutral. You can even get it in a black color, which when you combine that with the triple bolts there, it essentially will look like a mini chef knife, just through and through. You've also got a nice Kydex sheath, color matched, clicks in, no belt attachment hardware, but this is gonna be great in a backpack if you're going traveling to a rental home, or you're taking it on your camping kit as well. Going to work really nicely and stay out of the way until you need it. All right, we're gonna close things out with some camp knives specifically, which to me are different from like hunting and survival knives. First one here from Condor, a Julio Diaz design. This is the Bush Slicer. Comes in about 120 bucks. And just check out kind of the attitude on this guy. 1095 carbon steel, high convex grind with a secondary bevel, not too thick, so you've got a pretty good slicing thing going on here. Great at breaking down bigger proteins, I would say. Also, you've got some rock chop capability there too for breaking things down further and doing some of the smaller kitchen knife task or smaller chef knife task. Now, with the belly of this knife coming all the way up to the spine, this is essentially a straight spine knife. Tip work is gonna be a little more difficult. Like if you're going into pierce an onion and do some chops there, a little more tricky on this, but I kind of see this as a hybrid between a meat cleaver and maybe a butcher knife or just some other kind of skinning knife there. Really, really aggressive slices going on. And then for the camp usage, you've even got a pot lifter hook here. So, you know, the bail on your Dutch oven or that sort of thing, you could hook into that with it and actually use the knife to lift up your pot. The handles are really nicely done here. We've got black micarta, contoured really nicely. It really feels good in the hand. If you're going down for a big chop, like hacking through a joint of bone or something like that, it's gonna feel really nice. And it balances decently well too if you're doing the rock chopping stuff. Might be nicer, I'd probably wind up modding mine and do a little bit of a thumb scallop here to make that a little bit better. Doesn't need it though, just be that thing I do because I'm a crazy knife nut. Now I'd say the sheath is at least as impressive as the knife itself, if not even more so. Julio, of course, the designer of this knife, got his start, or is very well known at least, for doing his Kydex sheaths. So this is his design here as well. Gray Kydex, you've got a lot of attachment options. You've got 2 straps here, which means you could carry it horizontally if you want. Right now, those straps are being used to hold the belt loop in place, or the standard drop belt loop in place, but you can take that off if you don't want it. You've also got a nice fire steel holder there as well. So as I mentioned, I definitely see some cleaver influence in that bush slicer, even though it's not technically a meat cleaver. Same thing with this next guy, just on a smaller scale. This is the White River Camp Cleaver, and price on this is about 250 bucks. For that, this knife is made in the USA. You've got about a 5.5-inch blade of S35 VN premium steel in this case, and a blade shape here that is a bit cleaver and is a bit kind of butcher knife in a way, and a bit chef knife too, all in this particular package. Handles, you've got various different colors of micarta available. This is just one of the simple natural ones here. Paired with that full flat ground blade and a little bit of knuckle clearance means you can do those chef knife rocking cuts. You can do the big slices, whether you're breaking down bigger veggies or breaking down bigger cuts of meat. You've even got the hanging hole there at the end, which you can use to hang it up at camp or index your finger for those rocking chops. Really nice. The handles are quite good, very comfortable again. They know how to contour these quite well. It's not quite as contoured in the top-down view as that Condor is, but the shape is very conducive to a wide variety of holds. As for the sheath, we've got simple leather in this case, nice deep pouch, simple belt loop here at the back, and a little bit of leather thong is typically included as well. Just a super well done knife. You know, I've said it before, I'll say it again, I'm sure. White River doesn't get nearly the attention they deserve for the high quality production knives that they put out today. Now, if you want something like this, but you like a handmade knife, this next guy is gonna be right up your alley. This is the Nordsmith Canteen knife, which is of course my design, and these knives are built by LT Wright, so you know the quality you should expect from these guys. What you have here is a more premium knife. These are about 365 bucks right now. It's got a CPM 154 blade, about 5.5 inches long here as well, but more handle length than something like that White River cleaver that we just looked at. I'll just hold the two up here by way of comparison. Got a little bit more blade and a little bit more handle with this guy, but fairly similar in size and shape other than that. Now you guys know I love a Nesmuk, which is of course another very traditional hunting knife style. But combined here with a little bit of Santoku profile, you get enough drop to the edge, you get the knuckle clearance from the handle, and you can do those rock chopping cuts really nicely. One of the things you get from the longer handle, which in this case is black micarta with toxic green liners, there's a flare here at the end that lets you choke back on the knife, and that brings the blade down in the process as well. Gives you a bit more leverage for the chopping cuts. You can actually use this for some light cleavery duties as well, if you're breaking through a joint of bone and that sort of thing. And of course, it's a great camp knife as well. You've got a great slicing blade shape here. Works well whether you're carving turkey or carving wood, as I like to say. Just works really nicely. You got a nice crisp spine here you could strike a fire steel with, something that most LT Wright made knives come with. You can get it on that Northern Hunter as well. I'm really proud of the sheath design on this guy. It is also made by JRE Industries, black leather. You do have the drop loop here on the back, the dangler loop, as well as a fire steel holder. But the snap retention on this sheath is definitely worthy of note. Whereas a lot of knives tend to have a strap that loops over the finger guard and faces forward, sometimes that can get snagged if you're moving through brush and release the knife. With this guy, it actually wraps around the handle and it faces backwards, so very unlikely to get snagged inadvertently. And then when it is time to draw the knife, the flaps kind of automatically get out of the way, so you're not gonna have to worry about slicing that strap like you might have to on some other sheath designs. All right, that's all the knives I've got to show for you today. I will say it was hard to narrow this list down. There's some more things that I had to kind of leave off the table that would have been fine options as well. Maybe I'll cover that in a knife AQ coming up here real soon. Let me know what you thought down in the comments. Let me know what knives you like to use for food prep when you're not using your actual kitchen knives. If you want to get your hands on any of these knives, there will be links in the description to take you over to KnifeCenter.com. Make sure you sign up for our Knife Rewards program as well, because if you're gonna put your money down on one of these knives, you might as well earn some free money to spend on your next one. I'm David C. Anderson from the Knife Center, signing off. Bon appetit.